The information covered in Lesson 1 includes a series of self-assessments that will provide the basis for the rest of the course. At the end of the lesson, you should be able to complete the following objectives: identify personal and/or team strengths, identify personal and/or team weaknesses, identify challenges and/or issues preventing progress in specific best practice areas. There's a famous author, Ernest Hemingway, who once said, "Never confuse movement with action." Have you ever been guilty of this? Do you often just feel like you are working as hard as you can, but you just don't seem to be making any progress? I know I do. As working professionals, we are so busy going from one project to the next, trying to multitask and to get as much done as we possibly can. We, of course, all want to work smarter, not harder. So first, let's begin and learn how to clarify your ideas and really focus your efforts so that you're not just making a lot of movement. Without a clearly defined path, we're all simply just spinning our wheels, which will ultimately result in little to no progress or improvement in our jobs or our productivity levels. To paraphrase the Cheshire Cat from Lewis Carroll's Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, if you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there. It's vital for a clearly defined path to be in place, because if not, then you don't know where the starting point is. Fortunately, the Institute of Child Nutrition's Applied Research Division has developed this great resource, Competencies, Knowledge, and Skills for School Nutrition Managers, which identify the standards of best practice in child nutrition. Then, to help the child nutrition managers determine if their strengths and weaknesses are in each area, a series of 4 self-assessments were based on this resource. The next several slides will guide you through these best practice areas. You will rate how well you and/or your school nutrition operation has implemented each area. Your responses on the following self-assessments will help you to identify your areas of strength and weakness. This information will be key as we move forward with setting effective goals. So although there isn't a pre-quiz for this lesson, you must complete each self-assessment before moving on to Lesson 2. The first self-assessment covers the topics of menu preparation and service. Using a scale of 1 to 5, where 1 is extremely poor and 5 is excellent, you need to rate the competencies for each of the functional areas in regards to how you or your school nutrition operation has implemented them. If there's any of the competencies that do not apply, just simply write NA. You can then advance to the next page once you have completed this self-assessment. The second self-assessment addresses procurement and inventory management best practices. Again, you're going to use the same scale of 1 to 5, where 1 is extremely poor and 5 is excellent. You're then going to rate each competency for the functional areas in regards to how you or your school nutrition operation has implemented them. For any competency that doesn't apply, again, simply write NA. You will be ready to advance to the next page once you have completed this self-assessment. The third self-assessment covers the areas of nutrition and menu management. Using that same scale of 1 to 5, where 1 is extremely poor and 5 is excellent, again, rate yourself on the competencies in each of those functional areas. If there are any competencies that do not apply, simply write NA. You may advance to the next page once you have completed this self-assessment. The final self-assessment focuses on marketing, communication, and customer service. Using the same scale of 1 to 5, where 1 is extremely poor and 5 is excellent, Rate yourself on the competencies in each of the functional areas. For any competency that doesn't apply, just write NA. You will be ready to advance to the next page once you have completed this self-assessment. Now that you've completed all 4 of the self-assessments, we're going to use your responses from those to identify your strengths and weaknesses. You need to use the self-assessment summary worksheet for this next step. First, you need to review each self-assessment and identify the competencies that you rated as average or excellent. Next, write these in the strengths box on the worksheet. When you are done, every competency that you rated as average or excellent should be in the box labeled strengths. Now, go back and review the self-assessments again, but this time identify the competencies you rated as extremely poor or below average. Now write these in the weaknesses box on the self-assessment summary worksheet. When you are done, every competency that you rated as extremely poor or below average should be in the box labeled weaknesses. Thinking now only about the weaknesses that you've identified. What challenges or issues do you feel prevent you or your staff from improving in those specific areas? Take about 2 to 3 minutes and think about this. Then I want you to list those challenges or issues in that bottom box on the summary worksheet. By thinking through the best practices and evaluating you or your school nutrition operation, you have identified the starting point for a clear path of effective goal setting. You should now be able to identify personal and/or team strengths, identify personal and/or team weaknesses, as well as identify challenges and/or issues preventing progress in specific best practice areas. Before beginning the next lesson, you will take a short pre-quiz to help you determine what you already know about the material in this lesson.